Components of the computer system. Components of the computer system. What makes the computer system the computer system? We want to take a closer look at the computer system and what makes up the computer system. You have been using your phone, your laptop, your desktop. What makes your phone your phone? What makes your laptop? What makes up the computer system? We already know that a system is a combination of many things. So when we say a computer system, if you are carrying your keyboard, your computer keyboard alone, that is not the computer system. If you are using your desktop alone, that is the desktop. Uh, that is not a computer system. A computer system is a combination of uh, your monitor, your CPU, and other peripherals that makes up the computer, that enhances the complete functionality of the computer. But that is not what we mean by the computer system. We want to take a closer look at the components. That is not the point here. We want to take a closer look at the components of the computer system. Basically, your computer system is made up of the hardware components and the software components. I repeat, your computer system is made up of the hardware components and the software components. Those are the two things that makes your computer function as a computer. And in the course of this discussion, we will analyze some of the hardware components and equally analyze some of the software components. And a combination of these two components is what makes your computer a system. It's what enhances the functionality of your computer. So what makes up any computer or computer system is basically the hardware components and the software components. That is what I have already said. Hardware components are those components we can see. Whether you say hard copy, soft copy, hardware components, software components, you should always remember that when we say software or soft copy, those are, when we say softwares, there are programmable commands we use with the computer, and we cannot see them. We can't touch them, but we can feel the impacts. So when we say soft copy, those things we cannot see, but we can at least attest to it. You can read on your laptop screen. That is soft copy. So when we say hard copy, those things we can see, we can touch. So the same thing is applicable when we say hardware components. Hardware components are those components of the computer that we can see, we can touch, they are visible for us to see. So hardware components are those components we can see, touch, and carry, while the software components are the invisible programs that we cannot see, but they control the workability of the computer system. Hopefully I have done justice to that. Let's take a closer look at some of the hardware components. I say some. These are some of the hardware components that you can find inside of your computer. These are some of the hardware components you can find inside of your computer. You can see this is your hard disk, this is your speaker, this is your keyboard, this is your monitor, this is your RAM, this is your mouse, this is your motherboard, this is your fan, and other ones. Those things we can see them, we can touch them, you can feel them, so they are visible for you to see. So those components of the computer that you can see, you can touch, they are visible, they are called the hardware components of the computer, and there are parts of your computer system. So let's take a closer look at software components of the computer system. Later we will analyze each of the at least we will take a closer look at least one hardware component and one software component. We analyze them and we set the stage for the next information. So we can see here software. When we are talking about software, your software is always divided into system software and application software. I repeat, the software component is always divided into the system software and the application software. The system software are those softwares that enhances the functionality, that enables the hardware components to work effectively. They also enable the software components to work effectively. Those are the system software, like your operating system. Without the operating system, your system will not work. Your system will not even boot to the desktop. There's nothing that will work with the system. You just have the hard parts of it. You'll be only seeing the hardware component. So without the operating system, very, very important, your computer will not work, so you cannot use your computer. So operating system is one of the software components of the computer system. The BIOS, basic input and output system. There are those system software that enable everything when it has to do with the computer, everything with the manufacturer's setting, everything that will happen inside of the computer, the manufacturer programmed them and put inside of the BIOS. We will take a closer look at the BIOS in the course of this training. I already informed you that we will combine both repairs, maintenance, and application. So there are some things I will not be able to expatiate here because this is not a repair or maintenance class. But when we get to the repairs and maintenance class, we will analyze most of these concepts as an engineer so that you understand how the system works. So when we say system software, there are those programs that are still software, but these are special software that enhances the functionality that drives other hardware and other application software. So like your BIOS is just a chip, and on inside the chip the manufacturers had already programmed special softwares from the manufacturers, not Microsoft that you come and install. Microsoft is not a system software. So the manufacturers have already programmed different programs that will enable your computer work effectively. So your BIOS is very key to the functionality of your computer system. Device driver. These are some drivers or system softwares that enable you integrate or attach other peripherals to your computer system. Maybe you put in a particular hardware into your system and your system doesn't recognize it. Your system, maybe you plug in a printer. There are some printers that are plug and play. What device drivers does is they enable hardware components to communicate with the BIOS and the operating system. So when the manufactures the operating system, the BIOS, they had already listed hardware components. Maybe I don't know the model of your phone, I don't know the model of your printer, so they will put in those printers that if you install into your computer, the operating system will automatically recognize them and they will start working. There are some phones you plug, there are some times you plug some phones or you plug in your modem into your computer. Before you know it, it will start telling you driver installation, driver installing. That function is performed by the device driver. So those are basic system software. And when we say application software, we have the basic application that we use to solve our daily problem, our daily need, like your word processing software, Microsoft Spreadsheet, and Corel Draw, Photoshop, and other applications. So those are basically the software components, those programs, both system software and application softwares that enable the functionality of your computer system. So in one word, the computer system is made up of the hardware components and the software components, both being complementary. In essence, without the hardware components, the software components will not work. There's no way you carry your operating system, maybe Windows 10, Windows 8, and you just put the the CD on top of your table and you start working with that operating system. There's no way you carry your Microsoft inside the installation disks and you must install it into your computer. So there is no way the hardware component will work without the software component, and there's no way the software component will work without the hardware component. That is the reason we are saying that both being complementary. So the hardware cannot function without the software, and the software cannot function without the hardware. This is true. The hardware cannot function without the software, and the software cannot function without the hardware. That is exactly what I have said. So the relationship of the hardware and the software is more or less like the relationship between the car and the driver, between the car and the driver. The car cannot drive itself, and the driver, if he wants to go out with the car, it must enter the car and drive. So the car does the running and the driver does the driving. So without the driver, the car will not drive itself, and without the car, the driver will not have any means that he will use as a means of transportation. So who is important? Who is more important? The hardware plays the role of the car, while the software does the work of the driver. So that is the reason we are saying they are complementary. They are complementary. So hardware components. Let's take a closer look at the hardware components in detail. We have already known what the hardware components are, or if somebody asks you, what do you mean by hardware components of the computer, you should be able to explain it using your own words. So there are the physical and electromechanical components of the computer, which we can see, feel, touch, and carry from one place to another. There are the devices systematically connected to one another and are mainly the system units and the peripherals. The system units and the peripherals. You can take a closer look at this. The system units and the peripherals. We already showed you this. These are some of the hardware components. So computer peripherals. In the computer industry, you'll be hearing us use peripherals, or somebody might ask you. So let's take a closer look at what computer peripherals are. Computer peripherals are basically those hardware components that you attach to your computer. Maybe you want to print now. Without a printer, you cannot get the hard copy of your soft copy. Without your speaker, that is external speaker, without your external speaker, you might not be, if your inbuilt speaker is faulty and you want to play music with your laptop without the external speaker, you will not hear any sound, and you bring in your speaker and attach to your computer. So that is also a peripheral. You want to scan a document now, and the document is not inside of your phone, and you bring a scanner attached to your computer system, and you scan your documents and put inside of the computer. The scanner in this way uh, is a peripheral. So the input devices and the output devices constitute what is termed the peripherals. We know what input are, we know what input devices are, we know what output are, we know what output devices are. So those things constitute what we call the computer peripheral. So the peripherals aid users to communicate with the computer and get the feedback from the computer. That is exactly what we are saying. So those things you connect to your computer are the computer peripherals. You can see computer peripherals. You can see these devices that you connect to your computer, be it a laptop or a desktop. They are called computer peripherals. The hardware components are divided into, let's look at the hardware components, and we say they are divided into input units. When we say the hardware components, they are divided into input unit, the output unit, the processing unit, the memory or storage unit. We want to take a closer look at the hardware components of a computer, and we are telling you that the hardware components of the computer system is divided into input unit. We will pick one input unit, discuss it. Output unit, if time permits, we pick one output unit, discuss it. Processing unit, if time permits, we pick one processing unit and discuss it. Memory or storage unit, if time will not permit us, you see us in our next class, as we will continually update you with this information. So as we come back, we will start with the input unit, and we progress gradually.